Okay. Wait, let me check a couple. Let me check the date.
I already pressed it.
Okay, no worries.
Becky, can you also give me the opportunity to share?
Yeah, we all do.
And Becky, actually, it should go the opposite way. Rob should be first, and then, and I'll make an announcement. Rob should be first, and then Greg is second.
Am I on?
Okay.
But I'll make an announcement. Don't change the agenda.
You're on, Greg.
All right, I don't have video just yet.
Are the presentations ready, Becky, to be, are they going to be available? Are they set?
Yes, I'm set. We're good.
Okay, so I need
We're
the
live.
agenda. So do we have an agenda now?
Yes,
that we can pull up?
I'm putting it up.
Let me know when you're ready.
We're ready.
Good evening. Today is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. This is a regular workshop meeting. And again, I reiterate, not a regular meeting, but a workshop meeting, a regular workshop meeting. This meeting is being called to order. At this time, we're going to open up with our Pledge of Allegiance. And we're going to ask, actually, we're going to ask our board clerk if she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We thank you all for joining this workshop meeting. We are still operating in a virtual or remote format per the Governor Cuomo's executive order. We know that there's been an uptick in cases throughout the Hudson Valley area as well as New York City. And we continue to await information from our Department of Health as well as our governor's office, Governor Cuomo, as specific to how to continue to move forward with things. We know that Dr. Rosser has been really fastidious in all of his efforts around COVID-19 and meetings and staff and hybrid and remote learning. And so at this time, we're going to turn over the meeting to him. The workshop topics, I believe some of them will deal with some of these issues. And so I'm going to turn it over to our esteemed superintendent of the Poughkeepsie City School District, Dr. Eric J. Rosser.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I want to sort of thank everyone for logging in this evening. We have some very big topics that we want to sort of share some updates with our community as well as the board members. You know, these topics in which we'll be discussing today are all about the work. You know, our responsibility as leadership here in the Poughkeepsie City School District is to make sure that we are developing and we're strengthening our impact to meet the needs of our children. And the presentations that you will be presented with this evening, from Mr. McDowell providing a financial update to Mr. Gregory Mott providing a curriculum and instruction update, as well as me providing a district annual goals quarterly update, is really specifically around the work, which is so important, you know, to our students and the future of the Poughkeepsie City School District. Prior to moving forward with the workshop topics, I do want to say that, you know, there's a number of things, to your point, Dr. Watson, that had been sort of evolving, particularly around COVID-19 and, you know, what school districts are doing. I've been in conversations throughout all today, you know, with Dutchess County superintendent. In fact, we have another meeting scheduled this upcoming Friday. We had the honor of having the attention of our county executive, Marcus Molinaro, his health individuals, his health department leadership were a part of conversations. And what we've been conversing about is what is going to be something that we're all anticipating is going to be potentially a wave that sort of sweeps across New York State. And we're having conversations, and as I have shared publicly, as well as that was published in today's Poughkeepsie Journal, as well as the Mid-Hudson News, that while we are slating to return to in-person learning through a hybrid model on November 30th, all of that is going to be contingent upon the local data, as well as direction and guidance from state as well as local leadership. So I want to sort of just open up with that message, because I know that, you know, through emails that I've been receiving, through telephone calls that have been coming into the district, there's a lot of concern and a lot of anxiety around our plan for transitioning to hybrid. You know, as I stated to the Poughkeepsie Journal, you know, us developing the plan is something that we have to do, because eventually we will transition into hybrid. Currently, as I stated in my correspondence to parents and to caregivers this past week, that we have slated November 30th for that date. However, you know, we are, you know, looking at the local data, the local statistics, taking guidance from our county and state leadership around whether or not that's going to be doable for our school district. As I mentioned, you know, my team and I, we met this afternoon. We talked a little bit more about it, you know, talked about the various scenarios. I have another meeting scheduled this upcoming Friday with the district superintendents of Dutchess County, in which we'll be discussing, you know, this as well. So additional information will be shared with our community as additional information about what our direction as a school district to transition into a hybrid model becomes available. So I wanted to start off by just stating that at the beginning of this meeting, because I know that there may be many parents who are and caregivers who are logged in and who are wondering whether or not we're going to have any conversations around the reopening to hybrid. What I want to do is to transition to have Mr. McDowell provide a financial update on where we're at as a school district and some of the many things that we've been engaged in to strengthen our impact on delivering quality instruction to our children. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McDowell. Ms. Torres, if you can put the presentation up, that would be perfect. Mr. McDowell?
You got it. Thank you, Dr. Rosser, board and community for your time tonight as we are in a just an ever-changing time right now. Today will be a brief conversation about our financials, and then just to give you an idea of what we're doing behind the scenes, because I think many people think that we just look at numbers and crunch those, but holistically, we're doing our best to get a total grasp of what our budgets, our grants, and everything look like, so that we can make Poughkeepsie the best school district in New York State. So Becky, if you'd like to move to the second page. So our agenda today will be, again, it'll be pretty brief. We're going to talk about our revenues and expenses as of the end of October of 2020. We're going to talk about state filings, because I think this is something that our board, we would really like to help our board understand where we were, where we're going, and what we need to do to make sure we're proactive and we continue to process and improve what we're doing operationally to get us to the next level. And then just to open it up for a general discussion about those finances and those state filings and a couple other things that are happening here in the operational aspects of the district. Next page, Beck. So our audit has been completed, and those numbers we actually just got the hard copy filings of the audit today from our auditor. So Dr. Watson, your copies are here, and the board copies are with Ms. Torres. So if anyone that wants to see them, you can, but the numbers have not changed from what was approved by the board a few weeks ago. What Dr. Rosser has asked that we do for the board and for the community is to just give you an idea of what we look like when it comes to revenues and expenses for this year compared to last. And what it shows you is pretty much that we're on par for the most part with both of those aspects. Revenues this year were around $39.2 million of received revenues this year compared to $39 or $40 million for last year. So about a 2% difference, but nothing astronomical when you consider that we started our tax revenue collection process 14 to 20 days after last year. And expenses are slightly below the expenses that we incurred last year. Last year we were around 23 million, and this year we're around 20.6 million or so. You can see that those percentages are reflective of the percentages of our budget, 20% for this year and about 21 to 22% for last year. And that goes in, that's rational because we don't have some of the expenses that we had last year at this particular moment, knowing that we still can have those. So most important thing still for all of us to remember is the state is still currently on track to withhold 20% of our state aid payments. And most of our state aid payments come in between the months of December and June. So we're still in a holding pattern to see what federal funding we may get to help with that potential loss of state aid. And right now we truly don't have a firm grasp of what that means. With the president changing, that may help, I don't know. But right now, mom has been the word when it comes to the 20% withholding and what additional funding we'll get. Next page, please. So operations update, New York State filing. So, and I know Dr. Rosser can attest to this. One thing that we've really done, and the one thing that the superintendent has asked that we do down in the finance department is let's get all of our state filings in, because I know there was a time last year when we potentially lost state aid, or state aid was actually delayed in June. I want to say the number was about 650,000 because we hadn't had all of our state filings in. So like our ST3 and all of our audits and our transparency reports and all of those have specific timelines. And we are really, really working hard to make sure we meet those timelines. And we are at a point where we're literally almost caught up compared to when I did start back in March, me and Mr. Hogan, where we had numerous reports from years ago that weren't updated. So that's why you've been inundated with a lot of corrective action plans and a lot of audit reports, because we have to get those in. And the major caveat is the state will withhold state aid if we don't get those reports in. So the one thing I can applaud the finance department and all of the departments in operations, we are getting these reports done. And I can't say that I've done it alone because I haven't. I'm just the one who reports out on them. But the finance, the facilities, and all of the operations department deserve a round of applause because we're getting this work done. And this is something that we're going to set a precedent on. And we're going to do this consistently going forward. So next year and the years to follow, we will get these done on time. So there should be a pattern of when these reports are coming in, and eventually we will share those dates with the board and the community so that they do know and can expect to see certain things like the ST3 and certain things like the internal audit or external audit. You'll start seeing those reports and you'll be like, oh, that's because they're due October 15th and things like that. So I just wanted to say congrats to the finance department and the other operations departments, because we're getting those things done. And that's a great feather in their hat, especially in a time of COVID. Capital project update. Obviously, we had a successful vote on October 20th. And now we are in the process of receiving responses for RFPs for our construction management and our architect for the capital project. And these contracts, once they're vetted and reviewed, and will be obviously looked at through a committee and then brought to the board, will be for the entirety of the capital project. So this is a very, very important process for us. The bids are due Friday at 3 p.m. And we're excited to start to receive those. And we're looking forward to the responses, and we're looking forward to moving in the direction of who will be our respective firms that will be helping us with the next phases of the capital project. We are grateful for the individuals who have helped us, and at the end of the day, we hope when it's all said and done that we have a great team to take us to the next level. Also in regards to our energy performance and our bond counsel and even our financial advisor, we're going to be looking to RFP all of those also, because what we want to do is, again, standardize our processes to make sure that everything is legitimized. Not to say it wasn't before, but to just continue to legitimize our processes. So when the state comptroller or the auditors come in, all we have to do is give them documentation that shows what we've done, when we've done it, and then we can move on to the next situation or the next thing that's within our monthly calendar or yearly calendar. So outside of that, we are continuing to buy PPE for our students who will be coming back or who are slated to come back on November 30th. We are doing our best to get moving towards the next budget for the 21-22 school year, and the calendar will be coming your way for approval on December 2nd. And we're just sincerely just continuing to push the envelope because that's what our community, our taxpayers, and our children deserve in Poughkeepsie. Other than that, I'd like to open up the floor for everyone, and if anyone has any questions, I would love to try to answer them.
Board colleagues, are there any questions? Ms. McDowell, do we have any information specific? So I know there was discussion about a 20% possible cut in state funding. Have you heard anything regarding that?
I haven't heard anything about them discontinuing. They stated that they would do it in September, and they did intercept 2 payments that we did receive in September, which allotted to a withholding of about $790,000 or so. We have not heard anything about any recouping of those monies, and we haven't really received any much state aid since that time, because most of our revenue between September 30th and say December 15th comes from tax levy revenues.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't hear anything probably until around December 15th. That's when our next payment of state aid comes. And we will really then begin to know starting in January, because then we get our STAR and our other types of aid that we get. March is the big time. March is when we receive probably 50% of our state aid in regards to the state, state aid from the state. So, and that's when the state's year-end budget stops March 31st, and it begins April 1st. So we're 4 weeks out.
And I just want to make a comment specific to RFPs. One, I would like for you to elaborate on the process of the RFP. If you would just explain exactly. I know that you touched on it in a concerted way.
He was losing.
Can we make sure we mute all of our phone lines? So if you could expound on that process just a little bit more. Thank you for the information that you did share, but if you could just I know that there was a walkthrough or something and all of that. So if you can expound on that, that would be great.
Sure. We released the RFPs around October 27th, and we put a timeline of November 20th for receipt of all responses to RFPs. Anyone who has emailed and or called or solicited information, we have referred them to our website, and there's a Q&A area there for any questions that anyone has had. We did have a walkthrough on November, I want to say the 11th, and we did have, I want to say 15 companies who are interested in the RFPs.
And when you say walkthrough, Mr. McDowell, what do you mean by that?
So walkthroughs, we had a 7-hour walkthrough of all of our buildings. So each building for about an hour. We started at 8 a.m. We did the high school from 8 to 9, middle school from 9 to 10. And then we did the other 5 elementaries, 45-minute intervals at each one of those. And we posted the schedule on our website. So I want to say approximately 25, 26 individuals were there at 8 a.m. And we do have a sign-in sheet for that. And we, and Jimmy McCray, our interim facilities director, walked them through all of the buildings. And we did give them copies of the presentation that our architects / construction managers developed for our August 5th board meeting. So they would have an idea of what things we were considering as recommendations or things that we were going to do in the project. So Jimmy said it was, there were a lot of really good questions, a lot of interested individuals wanting to see every aspect of all of our buildings so they could get their hands around what this $100 million project looked like. Nothing is better than walking the buildings as an architect or a construction manager, because you get to see what needs to be changed. You know, it's just a much, it's just a much better view and understanding of what the process is, or what the beginning looks like and what the end hopefully will look like once we're all done. But we had great participation, a lot of really good questions. We funneled everyone to the website to make sure that we're all on an equal ground. And I continue to receive emails and tons of interest. And what I asked them to do is, if you have questions, please send it to us on the Q&A or email to us, and whomever sends any questions, we then post on the website so that everyone gets to see what everyone's asking. But a lot of interest in the project. I probably can say we had 14, 15 firms show up. We probably had another 14 or 15 who have, outside of those, I would reckon, who have expressed interest. And I think Friday at 3 p.m. we're going to have a large turnout, a great turnout for the RFPs, which is what I think we want. We want people to sharpen their pencils and put their best foot forward. And I expect that many firms will do that. But the process after that will be, we'll develop a committee to review the responses. I expect that the board will want to have a subset of that initial group, 3 to 4. I don't know how many, it depends how many great responses we get, presentations that will come in either to the committee or to the board. And we will then, through a grading process, determine who we feel is the best group to represent us for all of these RFPs. I think that's the most fair process that we can have. I have not taken any personal phone calls from anyone in regards to the RFP process. I've pushed everyone towards the website so that no one can say that they were able to receive any information that someone else didn't receive. We're going to have this done out front and in a transparent way, because I know that's how Dr. Rosser and the board works. And I think we're going to have a very successful conclusion to these RFPs once we go through the process. I expect that sometime late December or early January, we'll be picking or making recommendations to the board for the architect and for the construction manager. And then subsequent to that, you'll have the bond counsel, you'll have our financial advisor and our energy performance consultant. Those RFPs and the resolutions from those coming to the board also. But all of it will be transparent. All of it will be for anyone to see. And we're going to do our best to form the best team that will represent this district and community well. And we're going to have a hell of a project.
So, Mr. McDowell, specific to the review process of the RFPs and RFPs for our community members who may not be at the nomenclature, is request for proposal. You mentioned that there may be two different layers. The first layer, can you just, and if you don't have all of this totally formed just yet, then that's fine to say so. But if you do, if you could help us to understand and the breadth of individuals that perhaps will be a part of this committee, the initial committee, and I believe that you said that there may be even a secondary committee. So has this been framed yet?
It hasn't totally been framed yet, but my assumption would be, and I could be wrong, but my assumption would be that it would be the facilities or a capital committee that we currently have, unless another board member or two would like to be in this specifically. We have to make sure that we don't have a quorum, because then that may change some things, and Kate can help me with that. But normal for normal RFPs, you usually have a committee that whittles, decreases the number from, if say we get 12 responses, from 12 to our top 4. And then those top 4 come in and they present, and it could be to the same committee or it could be to the board. And that's something that I know Dr. Rosser will help us decide what that next step will be. And then we bring that to the board of trustees and with our recommendation. But there will be at least 2 different vettings of this. The initial response, then I guess you'd say the semifinals or final 4, whomever that will be, and then our recommendation to the board for the company that we select to be our construction manager, our architect, our financial advisor, et cetera, et cetera. But there will be layers to this, because it should be layers.
Absolutely.
And we should have a couple board members on it, because no committee, committees don't function as well if they don't have board participation, because of course we want our board to have a voice. But
Mr. McDowell,
and let me, if I can interject.
I think, Dr. Ross, if you can.
Yeah, if I can interject. So one of the things that we just need to be cognizant of, and particularly, since we're a small city school district with a very small board, is that my experience has been that whenever board members are a part of the process of reviewing RFPs, then they have to remove themselves from then being able to vote on the actual project. So I want to consult with our legal counsel on that piece. I know that in larger school districts, they may have the ability to do so, because then board members are able to abstain from the actual vote. So we definitely want to take a look at that, because in this process, we need to make sure that this process is pristine in everything that we do, because we do not want to have a hiccup where we then have to start the process all over again. And as we all have acknowledged, there is a great need for us to be able to move swiftly and making sure that we're moving under a timeline that will allow for construction to start as soon as possible, because our schools are in dire needs at this juncture. I also want to note that one of the things that we will be doing as a part of the review committee, we are seeking the assistance of other experts who are external to the Poughkeepsie community to be a part of that process. so that we here in Poughkeepsie are not only, reviewing the proposals ourselves, but we also have individuals who have demonstrated expertise in reviewing capital improvement projects. And we've already identified one or two entities that have volunteered to support, what we're doing here in Poughkeepsie at no cost to the district, which is fabulous.
Yeah, that would be great. Again, for me, the RFP process is critical and it has to be pristine. And that's why I push to look at, are we bringing in experts, people who have a real knowledge rather than novices for something that's critically important. As someone who's reviewed a boatload of RFPs as well as been a recipient of contracts through the RFP process, it will be critical, Dr. Rosser, and I know that you're very much aware of this, and Mr. McDowell, I know that you're very much aware of this, that we have individuals that are on there who have no horse in the race and who also have a high level of expertise and knowledge around capital referendum or capital improvement projects. So that was the impetus of my question, and just to ensure that we operate from that high level of from that caliber, because it will be critical to make sure that the initial committee, the initial reviewers are in the know, both of the fiscal component as well as the construction and building component as they're reading these things, because we all know, or anyone that's been in education for a while will know that it can make or break when you have individuals who are novices to something and in that process. So that was my rationale. But Dr. Rosser, I like that you really push the legal component, that our legal counsel, who we have an exceptional legal counsel under the guidance of attorney Kate Reed, will assist us. And I know that she has participated in many capital improvement projects. So I hope that the school district, working in conjunction with attorney Kate Reed, will ensure that we have a committee that's sound, solid, and can really read and get this thing done.
And not to speak for Kate, because I agree she is exceptional. And city districts may have different rules for board members. So that we'll work out and make sure whatever the guidance is that we're supposed to use, we will use. And whoever can be on a team, we will look to get appropriate individuals to help us with that. And again, I think this is an exciting time for us because we haven't had a chance to do this in a while. So we will make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's, and we will definitely make sure that the process is fair and transparent, so that when we do make our recommendation, that it's above board and we'll bring the best team forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. McDowell. And that's all that this board can expect. It is not our expectation to participate because we will be voting. However, that is our expectation, that there's extreme transparency, equity, that everything is done with fidelity. That is the absolute barometer that an expectation from this board. Board colleagues, are there any other questions, comments? Okay, Dr. Rosser, back to you. Thank you.
So if I can just close out by thanking the board for, their participation in tonight's conversation around, the financial update. I will share with the board that, Mr. McDowell is about to get really busy. He's been busy already, particularly with the capital improvement project, but he's about to get really busy, particularly as it relates to our 21-22 school budget. We've already begun conversations around, the budgeting process, as he has shared with you. He has already provided the draft budget calendar for this upcoming year. We're looking to present that for board adoption on the December 2nd meeting. Myself, Mr. Mott, Dr. Wade, we've all been conversing around what this process will look like this year. We will be most certainly including the voices of our school building principals in being able to develop school-based budgets. That's something that the Poughkeepsie City School District has not had probably in quite some time. I know that for the last several years in all the records that I've looked at and reviewed, I haven't seen any evidence that schools have really been involved in the budgeting process. We've already had conversations around how can we do that in the Poughkeepsie City School District, the benefits of doing so and what it will ultimately mean for schools being able to move student achievement to the forefront of everything that they do as schools. So more is to come on that. We will be providing another update next month, in which we will be able to provide you with some of the activity involved in that process as well. So I would like to transition, if there aren't any questions, I would like to transition to Mr. Gregory Mott, who will be presenting on a very important aspect of why we exist as an organization. We are an educational institution that is charged with the responsibility, let me change that word from responsibility, charged with an obligation to make sure that our children are receiving high quality instruction. While we have achieved a major feat in the district with having a capital improvement referendum approved by our community, it's important that we now work on the next frontier of the work. And the next frontier of the work, of course, is the instructional program. So what Mr. Mott is going to share this evening, he's sharing information on what have we been doing since September, since he's come on board, to really help further develop our instructional program and to strengthen it so it meets the needs of all children. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mott, at this juncture. Becky, if you can cue up the PowerPoint. I'm not certain as to who's going to be operating, if it's going to be Mr. Mott or if it's going to be you, Ms. Torres. But Mr. Mott, the floor is yours.
Good evening, board members and Poughkeepsie Committee. Thank you for having me this evening to share a few talking points regarding our instructional program here at Poughkeepsie and the work that has been done to date. Can you all see my PowerPoint presentation? Becky, I see 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. And Mr. Mott, if you could just click on, make it into the presentation, because right now we can see it. There you go.
All right, I just want to make sure from my end. All right, so today we're going to spend a few minutes just speaking briefly about the instructional program and give you an update of where we are currently here in Poughkeepsie. So before we can get into the details of what next steps will be, I'm going to run through a series of data points that I want to share with the board to give you a baseline of where we are in the areas of English language arts and mathematics, and give you a visual of that data to chart a path to success as we reflect on our district goals and objectives. So our presentation agenda this evening will focus on 6 areas, and I will leave time for Q&A. And I've also provided some additional resources that board members can read at your leisure. If you want me to comment on those, I can do that as well. But we're going to start with, of course, our mission statement and aligned vision for instruction. Everything we do in terms of our strategic plan will center around our strategy map and our 4 pillars. And the number 1 pillar will be, an objective will be student achievement. Instructional improvement, what is our theory of action? Those steps that we will take in order to ultimately, that will lead ultimately to why we do what we do, which is student achievement and raising the potential and opportunity for all of our students who walk through the halls of Poughkeepsie schools. Third, we're going to look at our instructional and district goals. We're going to also exploring district and school level data. And I think that letter D is going to be a focal point tonight And I suspect after reviewing the data, there will be Q&A regarding that, and that may take up a bulk of our time this evening. The two data points we will look at, and I'm very happy to also share with you all that one of the things I did discover that we didn't have was a vertically aligned diagnostic tool for the district. So we did incorporate iReady, which is a diagnostic assessment tool that assesses students in English language arts reading, in particular, and mathematics, and 4 domains in math and 5 in ELA, centered around standard-based instruction of what kids will have to learn and be able to demonstrate at the conclusion of a grade level in order to determine if they're ready to be promoted to the next or move on track to be college and career ready. It's a proper way of saying that. So we're going to look at that, and I thought it would not robbery to do a 3-year trend for our elementary buildings. So one of the things I want to show you tonight is our BOE, which is our beginning of the school year assessment, how it mirrors closely to our 3-year trends our students are performing out of state assessments. Then I'll go over briefly what we have been doing, followed by next steps. So as we stated, everything was centered around our mission statement. And of course, we know we are champion of children who inspire and nurture the whole child by providing innovative, high quality educational opportunities that prepare all students to embark on individual paths to or of success in a global diverse community. And I'm reading from my paper here because I'm a little blinded by some of the wording. But ultimately, what does high quality instructional opportunities look like, feel like, sound like in an effective classroom? That's ultimately where we are headed in Poughkeepsie schools through our strategic plan. So our instructional improvement theory of action. The goal, of course, is to increase student achievement. I think we need to emphasize that over and over again, is ultimately we are an institution of learning, and that is our first priority. We have many pillars that support that work, but ultimately we are an institution of learning. To increase student achievement, we must employ a multi-layered approach with a specific focus on instruction. So 1 + 1 = 2. So our theory of action would be, we are going to again build staff capacity. Notice we use the word staff, and that would include our building leaders, that would include our instructional staff that's teaching our students on a daily basis, and the support systems that provide the supports to the building level and improve support. That will equal enhanced opportunities and access for all students. We want to focus predominantly on our general population, but specifically our subgroups that we see growing in multiple areas that we need to focus on so they don't fall behind, so we can ensure that all of our students who walk through the halls of Poughkeepsie City have access to a high quality education. That will lead to, again, improve effectiveness and efficiencies of district processes. And again, all that we do ultimately is to lead to improved student achievement. So that is our theory of action. This strategy map you all are familiar with, but all of our work will relate to our district goals and objectives centered around our strategy map. A lot of the work I will be doing is centered around objective number 1, which is improve student achievement. And there are, of course, there are 2, 4, 6 there items that we can focus upon. We've identified through our theory of action 2 of them, which is 1.2 and 1.4. I won't reiterate those. Now, the next slides we're going to talk about again, we incorporated iReady, which is a diagnostic assessment tool that really focuses on ELA and math and the key standards within those areas by grade level. It measures students' growth, where students are, and it provides teachers with a pathway to assist students to ensure they are on track to be grade level ready, college and career ready, but specifically grade level ready. So you're going to see a series of charts. I'm going to go over those now. And I wanted you to take some time as board members and school community to look at this data. Again, this is grades 1 through 5. We repeat that, grades 1 through 5. Kindergarten is, given that we are in remote, are still on the preparation to administer the assessment remotely. So that's why the kindergarten data is not in this chart. Our middle school and our high school are currently in the process of completing their BOI, which is the beginning of the school year diagnostic. So what you see in front of you now is the district beginning of the school year data that was just complete the week of October 26th and last week for mathematics. If you look at the chart, overall, we see at the very top, you have English language arts, reading specifically. You can see the total number of students assessed, 2,067. I think I want you to pay closely attention to the 5-layer chart here. We have green, of course, with stripes, which indicates mid to above level. Green, of course, solid is on grade level. You have yellow, which is 1 grade level below. We have solid red, 2 grade levels below. And we have, of course, our stripes red, which indicates 3 or more grade levels below. These numbers are eye-opening, to say the least. I think you find it very interesting to see that we have at this point in time in reading that 23% of our students are on grade level in that area. Likewise, in mathematics, we're looking at 12% of our students who are on grade level. I'll give you also this background. Historically, BOI is, we have more intense and strategic kids in a BOI. Mainly because we have summer loss. Generally have 3 assessments throughout the year. If we were not for COVID and we were in a traditional setting, the BOI would take place mid-September. There will be another middle of the year, come February, and of course we'll conclude to see the growth that we have made with our students in an EOY, which is the end of the year. But I emphasize that because it is necessary to understand that this BOY that you're looking at now is also a reflection after 10 weeks of instruction. Quiet there, but I want you all to just to look at those numbers, especially in red and in yellow, in those percentages. All right, I won't spend a lot of time going over specific schools, but I thought it not robbery to emphasize that we have 5 elementary schools, and of the 5 elementary, with the exception, of course, of the Early Learning Center, because they house pre-K and K, we have 1 elementary school, which is Krieger Elementary School. That's a school in good standing. So I wanted to share with board members and school community that school, where we are. And as you can see there in reading, we still at 29% of our student population in grades 1 through 5 on grade level and above. And if you look at those numbers in mathematics, we're talking about 14%. So the goal is to gradually and progressively see the number of students that are on grade level increase, while your number of students that are intensive and strategic in yellow and in red decrease as we progress throughout the school year. That is the ultimate goal. But I wanted to share and emphasize Krieger mainly because, again, when you look at these percentages, they are they are alarming a tad bit, share with you what the work we need to do in order to move the district forward with our school in good standing. Numbers and data reflect accordingly. You have a PowerPoint that was sent to you all. I won't spend a lot of time going over each of these, but I think it's important to for the board members of the school community to understand where we are currently by building. Here is Clinton. See the numbers there. It's easier, quicker to add up the on grade level students because right now, green is the lowest percentage. Morse, of course, we all know that Morse Elementary is a receivership school. They are making more progress than some that are not in a receivership. As you can see there, 28% of our students in reading and 17% of our students in math are on grade level. Now, I totally anticipate as we progress throughout the years, our intensive, our red, and our yellow students will gradually decrease while our on grade level students will increase. Historically, that is the pattern. Of course, this is Warren. A few seconds on Warren to get a chance to glance at its data. It's a reflection. It mirrors within a few percentage points the same each of the school, which tells me that what's taking place is taking place across the entire district. So strategically, we need to look at what those practices are, what that curriculum is being followed, what pedagogy is being taught, if is explicit instruction being done in order to teach our students. This now we're going to move into the school district's elementary buildings state assessments in grades 3 through 5 on the New York State assessments. You notice 2017 and 2019. 2019 is the latest year what we had assessment. You won't see an arrow going up or down or equal sign in 2017 because that was our baseline year. That is the district. And the reason why I pointed to compare the two, because BOY is now, we didn't have a state assessment this past springs, and we all know why. But I want you to see that the number of the percentage of students who are proficient on the state assessment closely aligns with our BOY. And again, I don't want to pick on Krieger per se, but I want to use that particular school because it is our only school in good standing. And if you reflect back on the BOY, they're around 14% of the students on grade level. And if you look at the 2019 state assessments in mathematics in particular, you can see that their overall population received a 13% proficiency rating on the state assessment, which is a decline of 4%. Quickly, you can look at Clinton. The arrows indicate an increase. We'll spend some time on Morse. Morse, again, is an elementary school that is a receivership school. Extended time, extended day provided at Morse. One of the things I will look at is across the board in grade 5, there were a single digit number of students who are proficient. You go to 2017, look at math, there was 24% of the students there were at proficiency. If you follow that cohort, in 2018, we had 15%. Likewise, in 2019, you had 6%. So in other words, you're following the students. How well are they progressing throughout the grade and learning and mastering the skills? Let's keep in mind, grade 3 is the beginning of the 3 through 5 grade band. Many of those skills are introduced and taught there and in climax at grade 5. So if I showed you middle and high data, you can kind of get an indication where we're going. Spend a few moments on Warren, give you a chance to glance at it. That leads me to the next slide. What have we been doing since September? My goal is to institute and adopt a vertically aligned curriculum. The curriculum that we select have to be aligned to the next generation learning standards, of which we're rapidly moving into as an expectation by New York State Department of Education. Any curriculum must be aligned to a variety of indicators that must address the key standards that kids must master and demonstrate mastery of. One of the programs I work with, seen work, one is iReady, and two, Ready Math, Ready New York Reading. The diagnostic tool provides us with an opportunity to see where kids are. It also provides an opportunity to teach to grade level content while also providing intervention to students who are not mastering the skill as we progress throughout the year. So we did iReady training and we're offering professional development to all of our administrators. That was in early September, right away. A week later, we provided that to all teachers, Q&A. There was overwhelming support for the adoption of these curriculums. On October 20th, we made provisions, again, for building leaders to be trained on how to implement it. But I think most importantly, I think you should see there is on October 1st and 2nd, every building principal and cohorts of teachers, or grade band teachers, I should say, were able to come here to Columbus building. We have all the printed materials K through 8, and also Voyager Passport, which is a literacy intervention program that teaches the 5 pillars of reading, more an explicit instruction on teaching reading. They were able to come visit here, read over, examine, research, read through, research, printed materials here at the Columbus building. And again, overwhelmingly, the representatives from each building, the representative from the building principals, system principals, overwhelmingly asked me, Mr. Mott, can we get this program or these programs right now? We have pockets of materials being used. When I look at the data, I wonder if those pockets of materials being used are aligned even to Common Core Learning Standard. I question that only by looking at the data. But overwhelmingly, we have support for the institution and adoption of both the iReady Diagnostic and Curriculum Associates program, meaning Ready Reading and Ready Math. With that said, all of the parents were given the opportunity within our community for parent workshops through fireside chats on both October 21st and 22nd. And the feedback that I received from Curriculum Associate is it was the highest participation among parents of any district they worked with at the time. So that was kudos to the parents, which is for the reason why we didn't get many questions on how to incorporate an iReady assessment remotely from home. Many of the parents and students participated in the parent workshop, and those parent workshops took place in lieu of the principal fireside chats, and they were each over an hour and a half of time. Followed by the same week, 22nd, 23rd, each teacher in all of our buildings, pre-K to 8, received 3 hours of PD. And I just provided with you there the windows for the reading diagnostic and the math diagnostic. So I introduced myself to the curriculum committee. We do have that committee to examine, research, and make a recommendation. That was on the 16th. I had an initial chat with Chair and another member of that committee. And we introduced to that committee Voyager Passport, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, and the Ready Math and Ready Reading. A few days later, before we concluded that meeting on the 20th, the committee decided to host a special meeting. That's why you see the 20th, and then the following meeting was the 23rd. We had a share out session. Many teachers that participated to come down to the Columbus building to review, read, examine, and those who participate even online with the PD session were able to report out, provide feedback, and give testimony to the effectiveness of the programs we want to institute. They did so to the curriculum committee members. Overwhelmingly, there was not one speaker that did not wish to move forward with the adoption of the program. And then followed by the professional development hours offered to our staff members to date. With that said, we're going to move to the next slide. What's next? Going to continue to collaborate, of course, with our stakeholders, curriculum committee, building leaders. Of course, we're looking for superintendent to make a recommendation to the board on new curriculum. We're going to continue with our monthly professional development. If I have not stated that, we are doing monthly professional development sessions on using data to drive instruction, next steps for students who are not making a grade level, use of the new potentially adopted curriculum. We are also offering PD monthly on explicit direct instruction. What does that look like, sound like, feel like in an effective classroom? Of course, our next steps as well will be analyze data reports. Now, I have approximately 12 other slides that go into what is iReady, the iReady assessment tool, what is Voyager Passport, which is a K-5 intervention literacy program, which teaches those 5 pillars, which is, of course, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. But I wanted to stop here and give the board members a chance to ask questions of me based upon the data you have received and the information that's been presented. Is there any other questions for me?
I have some questions.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have actually a bunch of questions. First of all, how much does iReady cost the district?
iReady is a COSER program. So we have submitted the COSER to BOCES and received quite a significant reduction in cost for iReady. And part of the terms, we purchased iReady, and the district in return received a series of professional development opportunities to our faculty and staff. The online teacher toolbox access is free to our teachers, and the authentic curriculum is also free for the duration of the 2021 school year.
So my question, it's a curriculum, so it's a purchased program curriculum.
The iReady is a diagnostic tool. Ready Reading New York, Ready Math is a curriculum with teacher editions and consumables for all of our students. And every component supports the next. And I think and after looking at the data and assessing and listening to our stakeholders, our students need a consumable book that they can write in. And this also provides teachers with a teacher edition, an online supports that will provide them with the resources necessary to teach not only grade level content, but again, teach students where they are in terms of the skills that they're not mastering, they're lacking. That can be done simultaneously.
But why do I feel like we talk so much about what our students are lacking and what our students aren't able to provide to our community? And this is no, ding to you, Mr. Mott, but I just feel like with these achievement tests, it's always about, what the poorer communities don't have, but we do have so much as a community. And I feel like that with achievement tests, it creates this wider gap and it doesn't actually bridge the gap or close the gap. Test taking is a skill. It's not a content. So I feel like there's some real muddling here on, are our students, do they not know the information or are they just poor test takers? And that's not super clear to me, as a parent and as a board member, because I really think that those are two very different things. And I think we spend way too much time talking about what our kids don't have versus what are they able to provide to our community and to our districts or to our district. And that's my own personal opinion about, I don't really think that achievement tests are a real, able to really tell us a real tale about what our kids know, because our kids might even know more than we know in certain areas. And, are we trying to just teach them to be better test takers, or are we really trying to make them informed people? And I feel like this conversation has been a lot about a test, not really making them informed human beings.
The conversation we have in this evening is to share with you where we are, where our students are, based on the data. And the data has to be the driving force regarding informing our decision-making. Now, what is explicit instruction? When I walk into a classroom, I expect to see active dialogue and discussion, student engagement that will share with me, or I can be an observer to see and hear what effective instruction looks like, sound like, and examine and assess student mastery and learning. If students are in dialogue about knowledge, content, if they're demonstrating from a Promethean board, if they're demonstrating in discussion, you will be able to see that. And if we're practicing best practices as we progress throughout the school year, those skills that you reference, we will see some of those results, even in a test, even in an assessment. If we don't assess to understand where kids are, it's very difficult to chart a path to ensure that they're reaching their fullest potential.
Yeah, but there are other ways to assess children outside of the traditional test taking. And that's what I feel like we tend to do in this district, is we're all about the traditional test taking, and we're all about using programs as curriculum for our students. And I think that it is a detriment to our students. It is not something that is going to enhance their learning.
I would definitely agree. And one of the things that's going to be very important as we assess student competencies is to really look at it through multiple data points and to triangulate the data to really get a clear understanding as to whether or not what Mr. Mott spoke to, if he is observing classroom behavior of students, and that would be instructional behavior or academic behavior, of course, is he seeing those high level competencies displayed within the classroom that may be in contradiction to what the actual assessments are. It's very important in education that we don't look at one portion or one data point, but we're looking at multiple data points to be able to really determine, what it is our students are capable of doing, as well as, what their capacity to do more with.
Yeah, so but I mean, I hear what you're saying, Dr. Rosser, and I appreciate it. But when my children tell me that they're spending multiple days taking iReady tests instead of actually engaging with their teachers and their classmates, that makes me think differently than what you're saying.
Well, we definitely need to so your students or your children have not engaged every day in these iReady assessments. It was a assessment that was offered for a particular period of time. And being that it was a particular period of time, we're just accessing data, information as to where students are based upon this particular tool. As mentioned, it's still important not only to use this information, because this information is an important data set or a data point, but to also look at other ways in which we can assess children competency and proficiency.
Dr. Rosser, I reference board member to the additional resources there. We look at bullet number 4, how long does the iReady diagnostic take? There is a breakdown by grade level. No longer than 35 minutes for a K-1 student. And follow along with grades 2 through 5 and 6 through 8.
And Mr. Mai, I think one of the things that we'll need to do in follow-up presentations, because I do know that this presentation, based upon our current situation of being remote, is based upon the diagnostic data for the most part, as well as the state test scores. I think that one of the things that we'll need to do, not only for board member Martinez Leffert and board member Dr. Reeser, who have children in the district, but for our parents in general, is to share with them the multiple ways in which we will assess student learning, because student learning is not only assessed through, or should not only be assessed through assessments. It should be assessed through, multiple data points that will clearly show what our children know, how they learned it, and what they're able to do with what they've learned. So board member Martinez Leffert, we will be sure that once we transition into a more in-person environment to assess student learning and student competency, we will most certainly share what data points we're using to present the information.
Xavier, right here is not the place.
What was that?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was talking to my son.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Board, are there further questions? Mr. Mott, I do want to say, and the information that you presented, that I respect the fact that, data are king, and I like what you said, that you're allowing data to drive decision-making. I think when we look at a comprehensive approach to moving the needle in any way specific to the learning standards in sync with the state education department, as well as positioning our students to be better, and that data drives all processes. So I love to when you specifically, that the linchpin for you and the execution of what the district is doing is driven from that perspective. The other piece that piqued my interest when you said it was a fact of the professional development piece, because that is an area that's been deficient within this district, and garbage in, garbage out. So it's wonderful that we're looking at, along with whatever the district is doing, from a daily operations perspective, that you realize, and of course under Dr. Rosser's leadership, the importance of professional development. So I'm looking forward to continued information and continuing to hear more about, the process and the execution of whatever is being rolled out and whatever is being done. But I think that those two alone are the linchpin to the success of anything, is data driving processes, and then 2, professional development and undergirding our teachers, our staff, with professional development. The third piece that was pivotal for me in listening to what you said was the enrollment of the parent piece. And I know Trustee Martinez Leffert and Trustee Reeser, as well as Trustee Long, they all have children or grandchildren within the school district. And so the voice of the parents becomes also very pivotal, and enrolling them at ground level to whatever is being put out there, I think is also really pivotal. So those are the 3 pieces. Those are my takeaways from your presentation that are impressive to me as specific to the rollout.
Thank you, Dr. Watson.
Board members, any additional questions, comments? You know, Mr. Mott is engaged in a number of different activity, much of which I'll be talking about in my presentation, along with the rest of the team. But as it relates to the instructional program updates, we will be providing them on a frequent basis because, as I mentioned, it's great that we have achieved the feat of getting a $100 million capital improvement bond referendum approved, and we will be transforming our school district, particularly the buildings, into the 21st century. Now is our work on making sure that our instructional program, you know, is there as well to provide our children with what they need in order to be successful citizens, not only here in our great community, but, you know, globally as well.
Dr. Rother, I do have one other question I forgot to ask. I had written on my Post-it notes. My other question is, so looking at that data, and this is something that I've talked about before, right? Because we were specifically looking at the elementary schools. So knowing and seeing that data, how are we going to super support or fund our elementary, our ELC schools to make sure that our students are not failing when they get to the middle school? Because as we look at the middle school data, right, it is, I mean, our students have not improved. If we want to talk achievement tests, they're not improving in certain areas on those state exams. And that's where we get our funding from. So right. How are we supporting the kids that when they get to middle school, once they hit, I think the research says, I'm not an elementary school teacher and I'm not a reading teacher, but once they hit third grade, if they are not reading on grade level or above grade level, it is very difficult to get them back to grade level or at grade level. And that is when we start funneling lots of our school funds into those students, because now we realize we've lost them, right? So how are we going to prevent that loss?
Well, definitely, you know, making it a point to invest into our ELC and our elementary schools in ways that may not have been done in the past. You know, which is why in my conversation about the next steps of what Mr. McDowell will be engaged in is really looking at school-based funding formulas, making sure that schools are being evaluated based upon what they currently have and based upon what their needs are. You know, and heretofore, what we've seen, particularly in the review of the data, is that every elementary school is treated the same, regardless of the demographics, regardless of the need of individual students. We need to make sure that we are investing our attention, our resources, and making sure that we are also identifying new resources and staffing to support the needs of our early learners. Which is one of the reasons why, you know, in this organizational structure of the school district, we were very intentional with identifying and finding a leader such as Mr. Mott, who has an elementary school background, to be able to lead the work of giving the attention to our elementary schools, or more specifically, our early learners, that has been sorely missed in the Poughkeepsie City School District. In addition to that, professional development, you know, making sure that we have an aligned curriculum, not only horizontally aligned, but vertically aligned, you know, making sure that, you know, our parents, you know, have resources, our students have additional resources so that we can elevate student learning, you know, when it comes to the whole child. It's not one, as Mr. Mott said in his opening, you know, our approach to this work has to be, you know, a multifaceted approach with really turning the school district around that is focused on instruction as well as the supports that accompany that.
Well, thank you for your response. And I did miss part of it because my device died and I had to get on another one. But I guess I understand what you're saying, that we're going to give more, but how? Like what? I guess at some point, or, you know, in the budget, like where are we going to see that other than?
Right. Remember,
Just-
we last board meeting, we approved a grant writing firm in which we have already charged them with, trying to identify additional resources, to bring into the district so that we can then shift resources to our children. We've been taking a hard look at our title dollars and making sure that our title dollars are being appropriately used to be able to elevate the school district in ways that the school district has not been in the past. So it's a multi-pronged approach to how we're going to turn everything around. But to your point, it starts with our early learners. It starts with the elementary schools, and our teachers will tell you, our principals will tell you that, students, as they are transitioning, if they don't have the necessary or the prerequisite skills and competencies, from our ELC to our elementary schools, that, our middle school and our high schools, teachers and staff members struggle with being able to ensure that the students are meeting the requirements of our regents and our graduation requirement. So we need to look at the district from our early learners and continue to support, our middle grades as well as our high school grades in this work as we move and we transition the district to a better place. But it's going to be a lot of work. I've been saying for quite some time that, this work is not for the weary. We need to have champions, who are leading this work and who are leading this work with passion and a commitment and an obligation to bring about change, because, behind our breastplates, we want something better for our children. And it's not to say that the individuals who have been a part of this great organization haven't wanted that, because I have encountered many teachers, building administrators, parents, students, staff members who have wanted more for our children. But as I have indicated from the start, that the central office and the district has not been structured in such a way to support the level of work that needs to be done. And what we've been moving forward with is putting forth this strategic plan that really focuses on making sure that our schools, our children, our parents have the support that they need in order to achieve at high levels. And Mr. Mott, I don't know if you want to sort of comment on additional things that you professionally will be focused on to bring about the necessary change. I know that, this presentation, of course, was really around what you've been doing since September, but there's a lot more to your portfolio that you've been working on and are responsible for.
You make a valid point. It's very essential to understand the fact that primary instruction and the foundational skills are essential for our students to master prior to entering third grade. Because you're right, though, that is the indicator that we want our students now reading to learn at that point. So what does a sound, effective, efficient primary program look like? And that's what will be emphasizing and instituting at the primary level, especially as we transition back into a traditional setting. And what does that morning message, literacy block, math block look like in terms of the skills that must be taught to our early learners? And that, what I suspect from looking at the data and having conversations are not being done. So once we succinctly put those tools in place and structures that should be in place on what good pacing looks like, what good instruction looks like, what essentials and non-negotiables are, I think we'll begin to see the results of the work we're doing once an effective primary program is instituted at not only at the early learning center, but primary also is included at our elementary schools with grades 1 and 2. Dr. Rosser.
Any additional questions, board members? Okay. So what we're going to do next is transition into me providing our annual district goals quarterly report. We have, of course, And my apologies, I'm trying to get my computer screen correct as I'm talking. We have, of course, been engaged in a lot of work since the board approved the annual district goals and performance objectives. We want to make sure that no matter what we do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, that we have our eye on our destination. And our destination, of course, is turning our school district around and reshaping, the way in which we impact learning. So what I would like to do, and Becky, I guess you're controlling it, which is not are you controlling it, Becky? Okay. Let me just find out what's going on, because I'm a little bit, Becky, I'm not certain if you're doing that or if I'm doing this. If you can speak, that will help me out.
Now you just shared, so you're
Okay.
controlling it now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I was getting confused for a second. And using these platforms nowadays with so many different technological advances and what we've seen with COVID-19 is easy to get confused. So what I want to do this evening is to sort of share with board members in the community just some updates on where we're at with working towards our goal as a school district. Of course, we have our district mission, which is to make sure that we are providing the whole child with innovative, high quality educational opportunities that prepare all children to embark on individual paths to success in a globally diverse community. This is extremely important because if we don't have an aspirational goal of what we are looking to do for our children, then we're just sort of throwing a dart in the dark. And if we're going to hit the bullseye, we really won't know. So it's very important that as we're working to improve our impact on student learning, that we have an aspirational target in mind to work toward. So as we all know, and this is just really, me preaching to most of the choir, we have some new members of the choir that will be hearing this for the first time. We as a school district have been, very much focused on strengthening our impact to meet the needs of our children. Myself, the board, worked together over the past year. We use input from our community to develop a strategic plan that will lead us to meeting the needs of our children in a much more impactful way. We have engaged in regular updates to our board, and we've engaged our community stakeholders to be a part of the solution. It's very important that as we are working to affect the necessary change that is necessary for our children to be able to grow and learn in our school district, that we're doing it through a school and community approach. Understanding that our strategic plan is essentially a roadmap to what our journey is going to be as we chart our path towards our destination, is very important that we're monitoring and that district leadership along with the board is working in concert with one another to make sure that we are working progressively towards achieving our goals. The purpose of the report, of course, is to update the Board of Education and the community on the progress being made in each of our 4 goals. The report is organized in such a way that it provides clarity as to where we're at with each of the performance objectives, as well as providing some notes on what has been done or if there is some challenges with being able to achieve a goal, what we're looking to do to either course correct or what we're looking to do in the future to achieve our goal. Of course, this all is based upon our strategy map. We have student achievement, where we have 6 areas of focus. Improving student achievement is the foremost thing that we as an educational institution are responsible for. Enhancing opportunities and access for students, improving the culture, climate, and school safety, build staff capacity and improving support, empowering, educating, and engaging our families, as well as increasing community engagement and partnerships. Understanding that in order to do this, we need to have resources available. So we need to make sure that we're ensuring that we're using our financial and our human capital resources in such a way that is supportive of the work that we're engaged in. It is also important to make sure that as we are identifying resources, as we are looking at the resources that we currently have, that we are realigning and aligning those resources to support the strategic priorities. And that as we're looking at each of our schools, that is very important that we're also taking in consideration that no one school or no two schools are alike. So we need to make sure that we're aligning our resources and we're creating equity in the allocation of resources to schools based upon the school's individual needs and demographics. And Ms. Martinez-Lefford, as you mentioned, where are we going to find these funds? Because, you know, we do have a limited budget. We have a lot of commitments right now. We have a lot of things that you know, we're obligated to expend to operate as a school district. Of course, this is going to be with constantly reviewing what we're placing our priorities on and making changes where changes are necessary in order to focus on those things that we feel are most important as a school district in being able to meet the evolving and varying needs of our children. And that will require us to identify new funding sources. And that's why we have made the move to identify an organization to be able to support helping us to do so. And of course, making sure that once we're able to do so, that we have improved internal processes, systems, and structures in place to be able to support the work. And that as we're working in collaboration of our parents, our teachers, staff members, and the community, that we're also improving our communication so that we can work in concert with one another to be able to impact student learning collectively versus attempting to do this work as individuals. And of course, when it comes to our organization, we need to make sure our organization is effective in everything that we do on behalf of children. We need to make sure that we're fostering a culture of high expectations that support college and career readiness, because as an educational institution, that is our intent, to make sure that we are looking at our learners, that we're looking at their individual needs, and that we're supporting their individual desires to be able to either participate in a college of their choice or a career of their choice. We need to make sure that as we're doing this, that we are supporting our leadership and that we have sustainable leadership in place to be able to continue this work, because this work is not going to happen overnight. I wish to God I can flip on the light switch and things will change. However, understanding the reality of school or district-wide turnaround, it takes several years. 3 to 5 years is what they say, or the research indicates it takes for a school district to successfully turn around. Developing 21st century learning environments. I don't need to really speak too much on that because, you know, we've already talked a lot about what we're going to be able to do with the capital referendum that was approved by our community. And I thank our community for their support of our children and the community and being able to do this for our children. And then, of course, ensure a culture of accountability. You know, we hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We're accountable to every child that attends a Poughkeepsie City School District. And it's very important that we recognize that as educators in everything that we do, because we are dealing with lives. And these lives are dependent upon us to be able to enhance their potential and to provide pathways for them to maximize that potential. So I'm not going to go through this document word for word or line by line, because as I shared when we presented this information, there are over 90 performance objectives that are contained in this document. There's been a significant amount of work that has already gone into the team working to achieve these performance objectives. What you see before you is the strategy map focus area, the performance objective, which the board has approved, prior year data, if there is any, the target that we're looking to achieve for this year, the Q1 status, and then notes associated with it. What I will point out is that when you look at the Q1 status, keep in mind that this will fluctuate. Our goal is to make sure that everything that's in yellow is transitioning to green. Everything that is orange is transitioning to either yellow or is transitioning to green. At no point in time are we looking for any of these status to represent a red, because a red means that we've already lost the game when it comes to that particular performance objective. As I mentioned, every member of the central office team has departmental performance objectives in which they are responsible for. Their performance objectives align themselves to the district goals, as well as align themselves to the district's performance objectives. So what I do on a daily basis is supported by what Mr. Mott is doing on a daily basis, to what Dr. Wade is doing on a daily basis, to what Natasha Cherry is doing on a daily basis. We are aligned in our focus on making sure that we achieve these goals throughout this school year. So what I want to do is just focus on a few of them in each of these goal areas, and then we'll open it up for questions. This document, of course, will be or is on board docs for people to be able to open up and sort of, begin looking at. Tomorrow morning, our wonderfully talented, she's smiling and she has a big Kool-Aid smile on her face. She will be posting this to our website so that our stakeholders, be it our parents, be it our teachers, be it staff members, be it building administration, be it community, or even be it students, we'll have an understanding as to where we're at this juncture of our journey towards our destination. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of these real quick. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. I want to pick out organized curriculum committee to provide pre-K through 2 curriculum recommendations to Board of Education. As Mr. Mott has indicated, he's already done a lot of work to propose a K through 8 ELA math curriculum to the curriculum committee. That's being reviewed right now. Feedback is forthcoming. And then, based upon that process, I will ultimately be bringing a recommendation based upon, the information that is shared with me from the curriculum committee to the board for your consideration. Develop grade level expectations, pre-K through 12, outlining what students should know and be able to do by the end of the grade level and present it to the board. We wanted to do that by this fall, and of course the fall, in December, the fall will come to a conclusion and we will be into winter. And unfortunately, we've been off track. We're off track on this particular goal. Does it mean that we will not be able to accomplish this, this goal of developing grade level expectations? It does not mean that. It just simply means that we're currently off target with being able to achieve this goal by fall of 2020. And in speaking with, Mr. Mott as well as Ms. Jean Greco, who have been sort of helping take the lead on this, particularly in the absence of not having a supervisor of elementary education at this juncture, we're looking to slate the completion of this task for early spring of 2021. I'm going to hop around real quick. Students reading books from school libraries. What we had stated as a target for this year is that our students will read 40 at the elementary level, will read 40 books on average, and at the secondary level, read 6 books on average. Understanding that we have been operating in a remote environment, we took it upon ourselves to make sure that, we're still providing children with tools to be able to enhance, their literacy skills. And we've contracted out with an organization called Mayan. And Mayan is an online platform that's been used in a number of school districts across the country, with providing students with access to grade appropriate as well as age appropriate. And let me also state, literacy, not literacy, but language appropriate readers and literacy books that will assist them with being able to do so. And I'm proud to say that through the professional development that has been provided to our building staff members, be it building principals or teachers, that teachers and building principals have been using this resource as a supplement to providing students with access and opportunity to resources that unfortunately, due to school closures, they currently do not have access to. We will be rolling out a plan to inform parents of this very shortly, so that parents will then be aware of this resource, and that while students are at home, and parents are supporting their children's learning, that they will be able to aid their child in being able to access these resources. Let me pick out a off track. Established Superintendent Student Advisory Committee. We indicated we were going to do a quarterly meeting with students to discuss the student experience, problem solve, and receive feedback from students regarding the district's service and support to them. We're off track with this because the first quarter ended this past Friday. And while we had scheduled to have a meeting with PHS seniors to really get a good sense of what their experience has been with this online learning platform that we're using, as well as ways in which we can enhance their senior experience, we were forced to postpone that because there were other pressing things that came up. But what we're looking to do to get back on track is to hold 2 sessions during the second quarter. And the session with the seniors will happen before the end of the end of the academic, the end of the calendar year. Establish a district-wide teacher resource center. So that we had a target of October 2020 that has been complete. We had a grand opening of the center. It took place on October 28th. And the team is not only satisfied with being able to achieve this goal, but the team is also looking at ways in which we can amplify or enhance, what is currently there. So additional resources are being identified right now for us to be able to enhance the center for our teachers to be able to use them, teachers as well as teaching assistants to be able to use it. Develop targeted professional development plan for building leaders and implement. That is something that the Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education is doing. He meets weekly with the building leadership, which serves as a form of professional development. He's also has outlined a calendar for the entire year that brings the building principals together, as well as all leadership in the district together for professional development. One of the areas that we're off track on is targeted professional development plan for teachers and implement. While we've been providing professional development to our teachers, my goal of October 2020 was really to have a comprehensive plan in place. When I brought the team together, after this goal was established, it became very apparent that we needed to put a lot more energy and involve a lot more individuals into this planning. And we, of course, are going to be involving PIPSTA leadership into this plan, because what's important, to my point earlier to Board Member Martinez Leffert, is that we are providing professional learning opportunities for our staff members, particularly our teachers, so that they have the necessary tools in their toolbox to be able to address the varying and evolving needs of our children. Create a full service parent empowerment center and launch it. We have slated January 2021 for this. In fact, we are looking at Martin Luther King's birthday in order to be able to do this. Significant work has already gone into this. Space at Poughkeepsie Middle School has been identified under the leadership of Natasha Cherry and Ms. Jean Greco. They have taken the bull by the horn and they have really run with this. So the space that was once a different space looks totally different than what it looks like today. So we're very much excited about this. Ms. Cherry has been working to really enhance and really take this to a place that far exceeds my vision for this. And on January 2021, we will be having a grand opening ceremony at that location for everyone to be able to engage in what this will look like. We've been doing a lot of work with making sure that our community has been involved in this work, because this work requires a school and community approach to it. I've had conversations with members from the Poughkeepsie Public School Foundation on making sure that we're approaching this work collaboratively under the leadership of Ms. Ellen Stano, as well as Mr. Goley Stanford. We have had discussions around ways in which we can align the focus of the Poughkeepsie Public School Foundation to the goals of the district and the needs of the district, so that we're working collaboratively to address the varying needs. We're also increasing our conversations with higher education as well as other partners to see how we can invite them and have them be a part of the conversation, and not just part of the conversation, but also a part of the work in transforming the school district to meet the needs of our children. And this work is ongoing, and it will continue to happen, not only throughout this year, but as long as we exist as an educational institution, and I am superintendent of schools. As it relates to the goal of resource stewardship, of course, work has already started for our 21-22 district budget. And of course, we have the responsibility to making sure that we are balancing our budget. And our goal, of course, is to make sure that we're adding to what we currently have. And we're operating in such a way, and we're being fiscally responsible so that we can most certainly add to what we currently have as a school district. So myself, Mr. McDowell, Dr. Wade, Mr. Mott, and others have been in conversations around what this process will look like, and have already started a lot of work with pulling things together. Of course, we've received an unqualified opinion on our annual financial statements. So that's a goal that's been achieved. Where we are off track on, as it relates to this particular goal, is the increasing employee attendance. And when I say we're off track, at this juncture, we don't have the data to even be able to determine whether or not we're on track to meet this goal. And one of the reasons why we don't have the data is because we're still looking for a director of data who will have the responsibility of reviewing a lot of data points and compiling information so that we know exactly where we're at on a number of different areas, and this is going to be one of them. We have held interviews, and unfortunately the interviews to this point have not yielded a highly qualified candidate. Does that mean that we're going to stop? No, we're going to continue to press forward with being able to identify a highly qualified candidate. And then once we do, that person is going to have a boatload of work that they're going to be engaged in. And when it comes to this particular performance objective, they will then be able to provide us with an analysis to let us know, how we're trending when it comes to employee attendance and things that we need to do in order, and that data is going to then lead us to understand things that we need to do to improve employee attendance. Under improving internal processes, systems, and structures, of course, we refined the board structure to support a more efficient Board of Education meeting, and that is under the leadership of Dr. Wade, under the direction and guidance of, our board clerk, Becky Torres. We've been able to achieve a lot. And of course, nothing's ever perfect, and we should never settle for where we're currently at. We should always strive to do better. So there are refinements that are occurring, every time we get an opportunity or we receive feedback from either board members or community members or stakeholders. Complete the telephone system upgrade project to provide school and community stakeholders with better access to communicate with the district staff. We were looking to have this done by the end of this month. It was shared with me that, due to a number of different delays, that we're actually looking to have this completed winter of 2020. It doesn't mean that people can't contact our schools, because all of our telephones lines to our schools are operable. There are more refinements that we need to do, particularly when we talk about placing a telephone in the classrooms or in every room that there's a staff member, classrooms being included. And there's still some work that needs to be done there as well. Enhance the district's website and additional functionality and ease of use. Mr. Stanford Gully, that is, as we all have come to love, our beloved champion of the Poughkeepsie City School District. He has shared with me, some critical feedback about our accessibility to our website and just making sure that our website has additional functionality, particularly to meet the needs of our parents who may not speak English, or English is not their first language. So we've been working on developing, and expanding on our website. And, Ms. Torres, a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, shared some of the new functionality of our website and being able to translate, some of the body information. And when I say body information, things that are actually on our website into a different language. What it does not do at this juncture is to take attachments and translate the attachments. However, under the leadership of Natasha Cherry, we've also identified another platform that will speak the same language as our website, that will provide us with greater accessibility, with providing parents with access to translate things, as well as some other communication opportunities. We're also working with BOCES, and we have a scheduled meeting next week to discuss with them, what sort of supports can they offer us when it comes to managing our website, particularly looking at it from an opportunity to make it more easy for people to navigate and to access information. And we're also looking at webmaster firms as well to see what type of feedback they can offer us as well. The number of weekly communication briefings, which are my superintendent briefs, we're on track with that. Currently, we are 26 of 80 communication briefs that I committed myself to. We're looking to make sure that we're using this as one of many platforms or mediums to be able to communicate the various things that are happening throughout the Poughkeepsie City School District. And while the superintendent brief is not the only place where people can get information, as one of many places that people will be able to access information that provides our narrative of what's happening within the Poughkeepsie City School District. Of course, our building principals have been engaged in principal fireside chats. Principals have the responsibility of hosting weekly principal fireside chats, given the remote environment and parents having questions and needing to have access to current information about what's happening within the school district. So our principals will continue to do that. We are talking about what it will look like once we transition to a hybrid model, whether or not there will be a need for principals to do it on a weekly basis, or if we will sort of tailor it on a bi-weekly basis where they're doing it every other week, because parents and of course students will have greater access to our school buildings. Under organizational effectiveness, developing a comprehensive plan for the transformation of Poughkeepsie Middle School. That work has, already started. I've talked to the team, and they are identifying ways in which they can have focus groups with parents, students, community members, as well as staff, to really help us revision what Poughkeepsie Middle School as well as the high school will look like. Those focus groups will be occurring shortly. I am anticipating a potential delay. I'm not saying that it's going to be a definitive delay, but I am anticipating a potential delay because currently we do not have an assistant superintendent of secondary education. If I'm not mistaken, Dr. Wade has scheduled interviews sometime in the month of December for us to begin identifying that talented person. However, when this plan was developed, the idea was to have this person on board, shortly after Mr. Mott came on board, and we're now several months into the school year and we still have not identified a highly qualified candidate for this position to be able to really take a hold of this body of work, which is immense, it's massive. So I'm anticipating potential delays, but we're going to still work to be on target with our April 2021 deadline of having these comprehensive plans together. We're off track in developing a plan for career exploration opportunities for students grade through 7 through 12. And that has a lot to do with some of the complications associated with COVID-19, and not COVID-19 specifically, but staff, me having to redeploy staff to focus on things that are COVID related, and really making sure that our schools are operating in the remote environment at the best way that we can in order to meet the needs of our children. We're also off track with Principal Advisory Committee. We indicated that we would have that quarterly. As I mentioned, the quarter just ended this past Friday. It's not as if we have not been having conversations with our building principals, because as I spoke to earlier, Mr. Mott has been speaking with them or meeting with them as a group on a weekly basis. Has conversations with them on a daily basis. So we have been communicating and providing assistance and support to our building principals, but also hearing from our building principals, on a daily and weekly basis. The purpose of the advisory committee is to make sure that principals are being brought together with cabinet level leaders so that we can then discuss things that will most certainly be a greater impact in our working together to deliver high quality supports to classroom teachers as well as students and parents. Of course, one of the goals that we've achieved with this is to have our capital improvement referendum, approved in October, which we've achieved that goal. As I mentioned earlier, all the cabinet members have established goals and performance objectives aligned to the district annual goals and performance. I am working to make sure that the system of evaluation is in place for our cabinet members. I meet with every cabinet member on a weekly basis. We discuss their progress towards their goals, whether or not they need any assistance, whether or not there's any impediments before them, that I then work in collaboration with them to remove those impediments so that we together can achieve the goals that we have set forth. We are also on track to do the same sort of things when it comes to our building principals, our division heads, and I am proud to say that we are doing a yeoman's job when it comes to making sure that all of our work is aligned so that we are getting the best bang out of our collective impact. In summary, of course, this report provides updates of the status of our performance objective activity to achieve our goals this year. And it serves primarily as our dashboard. As I mentioned, there are going to be status that change throughout this entire year. Our goal is to make sure that we take every performance objective goal, or target, I should say, and we're moving it towards green. In the event that something is going astray, then it's our responsibility to make sure that we are, recalibrating. We are looking at redirecting. We are looking at correcting our course so that we can most certainly achieve our work. As you can see, there's been a significant amount of activity that's been highlighted in this report that highlights our intent with improving student achievement, maximizing our district resources, establishing sound systems, and making sure that everything that we do as an organization is effective with achieving our district goals. So at this point in time, I want to open it up to board members for questions so I can then provide answers. Any questions, board members?
Board colleagues?
And as I mentioned, this will be a quarterly thing that we do, as a part of our accountability, our transparency, so that our board members, as well as our community, be it our internal school community or our external community that supports our school district and supports student learning and achievement. We want to make sure that everyone is on one accord when they have an understanding of where we're at in our journey to meet the needs of our children and to transform our school district.
Dr. Rosser, I have a comment more than a question. It's what you presented is wonderful and it's comprehensive and definitely strategic, and it's refreshing to see something that it's a foundation, and then the foundation being built upon. I'm concerned though regarding, as every probably school district in the world, and not just in this country, is with the pandemic and the implications of COVID-19 and the execution of this work and the implications of the pandemic on the movement. And while, there has been some definite movement, and in others is still on paper. So can you just weigh in just a bit on any plans specific to the pandemic and the execution of your strategic plan?
So that's a great question. So I've always been of mind that, particularly, and let's all just take a journey real quick. Let's all jump in our vehicles and let's all sort of envision a destination that we need to get to. In our journey, there's going to be a number of different things that we encounter that most certainly will pull our attention to see what's going on surrounding us as we're journeying. It's still imperative that we reach our destination. So while there are things that are happening around us, such as COVID-19, and I'm not trying to minimize, the complications of COVID-19 because we're all feeling it, but that is something that exists, but it can't consume 100% of our time and our attention in a way that is then going to take us from achieving our goal with reaching our destination. We need to be agile in being able to multitask and being able to adjust where it's necessary and to focus our attention on the matters at hand, such as, a squirrel or, a bicyclist in the road, so that we don't run over the squirrel or hit the bicyclist, but at the same time, we're still progressing towards our goal. So in our plan, or within our performance objectives, and I didn't point out, my apologies, there were a few in the notes, are going to be very difficult for us to achieve if they are seen as goals that can only be established or only achieved, by a traditional school environment. So one of the things that the team has been very agile with doing is reimagining goals to see our performance objectives, to see how can we sort of transform that goal and meet that goal in a virtual or a distance learning or a hybrid environment.
Thank you, sir. Board colleagues, are there any other questions or comments?
And if I can ask a quick question of the board, do you find this to be helpful? Because I want to make sure that when it comes to the information that I and the team are sharing, that this information is helpful to you understanding, what it is, those are us employees that you've approved to be a part of this team are doing, and how we're progressing towards meeting the needs of our district in the transformation that needs to occur.
Andrew Reeser here. I'll weigh in and say that it is useful, and I appreciate your systematic approach in presenting this information and your perspectives. I think Dr. Watson framed it well when she said it's exciting to see a foundation being established and then being built upon, and we're seeing that happen with your plan to provide quarterly reports. Accountability needs to suffuse everything we do, and it's critically important for the board. And this helps us do that as a board, I think. So I found it really helpful. It's a lot of information, but extremely helpful. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback.
As a non-educator, I find it very helpful. I learn, just something useful and informative at every meeting. And these types of meetings just are an added bonus.
Thank you, Judge O'Neill. Any additional feedback that board members would like to provide as we move forward with preparing for our next quarterly report, which will be around the January 25th time period? Okay, so Madam President, I turn the meeting back over to you.
Madam Board Clerk, could you please bring up the agenda so we can see? We know that there are no items for voting. I believe this should sum up this workshop meeting. Just for clarity for our community, the workshop meetings are going to be exactly that. They're informational sessions. They're the opportunity for the superintendent and his staff to present information to us to better inform us in a more holistic way than a drive-by conversation on a topic during a regular board meeting where there's voting and a plethora of other agenda items. So this is the opportunity for us to have greater opportunity for us to have greater insight into the occurrences and things that are happening within the school district, and to get real comprehensive information via presentation. At this time, we're going to, Dr. Osmer, unless there's something from you or your team, if any of your team has any further comments, then pretty much we're going to be closing out. So I'm going to throw it back over to you for a hot minute to see if you or your team has anything else they would like to share with the board.
Team, anything that you want to share? No from Mr. Mott?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Dr. Wade, I guess there's nothing from him as well. So we're good to go, board member.
Excellent. Well, thank each of you, Mr. Mott, Mr. McDowell. Thank you so very much for very comprehensive presentations. Dr. Rosser, thank you for your presentation and for endeavoring to inform the board. At this time, we're going to close out with board comments. We're going to start with Judge Thomas O'Neill, followed by Dr. Andrew Reeser, Trustee Michelle Martinez-Leffert, Vice President Deborah Long, and then we're going to close out. Well, actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to close out the workshop meeting. We will be going into executive session because there's a personnel matter to discuss. We will not be voting on anything, so we will not be coming out for the meeting. We will just we will come out solely to adjourn the meeting. However, there will be no voting and no decision, no concrete decision making that will have us come back out to vote. So the meeting will essentially be convened. So no need for the meeting to essentially be convened. So after the executive session, we would just close out the meeting again. Just trying to make it very clear for our community members. Madam Board Clerk, can you tell me how many people were on the call? On the meeting? I see we have 11 participants here, but then I know that also there may be others.
According to the analytics, we had up to 34 people.
That's wonderful that so many people took time out of their schedule to participate, even in this virtual format. So thank you, community members, for participating. At this time, Judge O'Neill.
Thank you. I really have nothing to add other than what I've already added. Tonight's meeting has been extremely helpful, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Reese, sir.
Yes, echo Dr. Watson's thanks to Mr. Mott, Mr. McDowell, and Dr. Rosser for these very informative presentations. Like Judge O'Neill, I learned a lot tonight. You know, I want to express my appreciation to the leadership team and the entire district at every level, from building leadership to the instructional staff who've been working really hard to figure out a plan to transition us to hybrid learning. I mean, that's an enormously complex enterprise to go from remote to hybrid. Remote was new for us, and now hybrid's new, right? And the amount of work involved in doing that's immense. I also, at the same time, want to appreciate Dr. Rosser's sentiments in which he expressed earlier in the meeting, where he talked about the need to be flexible because we're not in charge of the virus. The virus is in charge right now, especially as we see numbers rise in Dutchess County. We went from less than 1% positivity rate to 3.7% in a month. And that's still low relative to the rest of the country, right? We should be thankful for that, but that's a steep increase relative to us, right? Relative to where we have been as a community, as a state, in our region anyway. And that's a cause for concern. And I was reassured to hear that Dr. Rosser, as he is in everything else, is on that matter as well. Is going to stay in contact with county and state boards of health, local and county officials, to make sure that when we move to hybrid, it's the right moment, right? And that it's going to be done consistent with health guidelines and best practices. So I just want to say both. I appreciate both the immense amount of work that's been done on behalf of the kids to be able to figure out how to transition into hybrid, and then also appreciate the flexible approach that we're taking to it at the same time. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Martinez-Leffler.
I just have a couple quick comments that are a little bit off topic. Specifically the phones. When I call a building and the phone, nobody is available to pick up the phones because they're busy taking other phone calls. It brings me to this Cisco voicemail, which just seems like it's like this, this kind of black hole of like, where is that? So I don't know if we can have some standard, this is Poughkeepsie, whatever building, this is Krieger, this is Clinton, please leave a message and someone will get back to you. It just seems unprofessional to me. Also, can we make sure that our marquees for all our buildings are updated and thanking our community for the capital project referendum passing, for both passing? I think that our community deserves the thanks from the district. And those are all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Martinez-Leffler. Vice President Long.
I have no comments.
Okay, so I just want to thank everyone. Dr. Ross, I'm going to throw it back over to you before we close out. I don't know if there's anything specifically from you that you would like to say.
Not at this juncture. I know that, as I mentioned at the opening, and this is just for those who may have logged in after we started, that, we're using and we're relying upon the data, to drive our decision-making, particularly as we consider, transitioning into a hybrid model. We gave a date of November 30th. was our slated date for transitioning to a hybrid model. And on a daily basis, my team, we're having conversations around, where we're at in our journey to be able to meet that destination. We're also being extremely cognizant of the data associated with this terrible virus. I'm having conversations with other Dutchess County superintendents, getting a pulse of what they're doing and how they're dealing with situations. And we're sharing best practices. We're sharing ideas where we're using one another as thought partners. That's being led by Duchess BOCE's Dr. Hooley. On a weekly basis, we have conversations with our Dutchess County Department of Health, in which they're sharing with us information. As I stated earlier, that our County Exec Marcus Molinaro was a part of the conversation today, and he provided us with great insight as to what other county execs are discussing at this juncture. It seems as if, I don't want to say we've come full circle, but, it's reminding me what we've been dealing with in the last few weeks reminds me of what we were dealing with in March, with the exception that we have more of an understanding of what we have before us as it relates to the virus. We have strategies that we must employ to make sure that our communities are safe. And I will assure parents that, when it comes to decisions that are made for the Poughkeepsie City School District, that those decisions are being made with you, your children, our staff members in mind. So we will never put our children, our staff members, or even ourselves in jeopardy of having our health and safety compromised in any way. So, more information will come as we continue to sort of walk down this path of reaching November 30th. And if things and when things change, we most certainly will be communicating that through my correspondence to parents and caregivers, Dr. Wade's correspondence to staff members, building principals correspondence to parents, my correspondence to board members, as well as other community stakeholders who are vested in the important work that we do on behalf of children of the city of Poughkeepsie and ultimately the community of Poughkeepsie as well, because educational institutions are beacons in every community.
Thank you, sir. So that pretty much brings us to a close of the meeting. I just want to thank all of our stakeholders who are involved and strategically positioned in the district. Mr. McDowell, you said something quite profound, to be one of the best school districts in the country, in the world. And it's going to take all hands on board for us to move, to do a paradigm shifting from where we are to where we absolutely know that we can be. And I just want to encourage hearts to commend all of the individuals that are have given of themselves, their talents, their skills to assist in this process, whether paid or unpaid. And unpaid meaning my board colleagues. We're in this together. I would like to just bring out a point, Dr. Rosser, specific to what you said, is that I got an email from my colleagues in New York City at the New York City Department of Education, and they're shutting schools down. There's a huge uptick, as we know, in New York City, and so the chancellor, he's made a decision and they've been teetering with this for the past couple of days, actually, and they made an official decision today to shut schools, at least for students coming in. I don't believe staff. I didn't read the entire email because it was close to the time that I was jumping on this call, but on this Zoom meeting, but there is a shift. The key is for us all to be safe and to do what's in the best interest of safety being first. Again, thank each and every one of you. At this time, is there a motion to convene out of the workshop meeting into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And everyone in favor? I know there's some on mute. Can we?
Aye.
Okay. Judge O'Neill, are you in favor?
No.
Mute.
Aye.
Sir, thank you. All right, so we're going to convene out of the workshop meeting into executive session. As I stated earlier, we will not be coming out to do any voting. So you can realize the meeting as adjourned. Although we will have to come out officially by open meetings law to adjourn the meeting. Thank you also very much for participating in this workshop meeting on November 18th, 2020. To the staff, again, thank you so very much for the presentations. Everyone, please be safe and I was going to say get home safely, but most of you are probably already home. There are some I see still in the district. Bob,
Yeah, definitely.
be safe. Thank you all. Take care.